Today I just briefly wanted to talk about the 1981 film Dead and Buried. The film was distributed by Avco Embassy Pictures, and for a time the film was considered one of the video nasties, which, having viewed it for the second time, I can definitely see why they may have thought that the film was a bit intense, but it really isn't. I think what really emphasizes the gore is the fact that director Gary Sherman went as far as omitting the color red everywhere throughout the film, with the exception of the violence scenes. So, for example, even emergency lights, like in the hospital scene where the victim in the cast was stabbed, there's a blue alert light. Also, with the vehicle tail lights, those were replaced by purple or bluish lights as well. So there really is no red in the film whatsoever, other than when someone is being killed. And according to the director, this was done in order to just increase the shock value, I guess, just because subconsciously you don't see red anywhere else, so there is nothing to, in your mind, unify the color, which just makes it stand out all the more. In the 1980s, the film had been banned as one of the video nasties, but was later removed from the Director of Public Prosecutions list. Originally, the director had intended for the film to be a dark comedy, but due to constant, I guess you could say, interruptions from PSO International Pictures, which was the third backer for the film, who actually bought out the middleman, so they definitely had a lot more say over what went on in the film, and they wanted the emphasis to be on gore. Also, at their insistence, 2 additional scenes were shot. That would be the one in which the drunkard was killed and the death of Doc. So I guess you could also say it's to their credit that the film wound up being a lot more dark. It wound up being a lot more gory. Obviously, you also have excellent special effects by Stan Wilson, who, to my knowledge, is mostly known for his creature effects on the TV film Gargoyles, and he also did the animatronic work for Terminator 2. So we'll come back to Stan Wilson in just a minute. So the film just kind of opens up with some guy on the beach. He's taking pictures, and a girl who he later names Lisa shows up and kind of just wrangles her way into having her photo taken. So he's kind of just flirting with her, and once she kind of does her booby flash to distract him, the townspeople show up and basically just tie him to a, I guess you could say, somewhat of a post, and set him on fire. So what seems interesting to me in this is that the townspeople themselves also take pictures of victims. So of course, the photographer who is set on fire is named Freddie by Lisa, the would-be model. And what I thought was extremely well done is the fact that Stan Wilson, who of course is the animatronics guy, did the special effect for his murder in the hospital scene. So the full cast figure that is featured in the bed is actually an animatronic figure. You don't actually have a person in that full cast, and the body movements are just so realistic that it really does clench it when Lisa stabs him in the eye with the needle. Definitely very well done, very convincing. There are numerous amazing special effects throughout the film, just things that you never even would have realized were not real people, or things that just look extremely realistic. So Stan Wilson definitely excels in the animatronics and realism department. So he definitely wins my respect. James Ferrantino plays Sheriff Dan Gillis, but for some reason, Sheriff is the only name that sticks with me, so I'm primarily just going to be calling him Sheriff. But he seems to be the only one that actually takes the constant murders seriously in this town. Throughout the course of the film, there are numerous visitors who are just randomly killed, and just seem to remain part of an unsolved, ongoing murder case. But another of the interesting scenes which I really liked was the one scene in which the a family comes into town at night. They stop at a gas station and they ask for directions only to find out that the hotel they were looking for is supposedly just up the road. This scene was actually filmed with somewhat of a tent effect in order to create a nighttime scene because it actually had to be filmed in the day. The twin boys that were used to play the son in order to comply with child labor laws, the director had to improvise and create a nighttime scene during the day so that the boys would not be kept out overnight. So also, just to keep the actors cool, they did bring in several fans. Unfortunately, what no one took into consideration is the fact that the whirring of the fans actually drowned out a great deal of the dialogue. So the actors had to redub their own scenes, and in quite a few of the scenes, the female actress, you can actually see her mouth is out of sync, so she just kind of doesn't quite add up, but just kind of something that I guess couldn't be avoided in the film in this scenario. And as I've said, throughout the course of the film, you just have numerous visitors or people passing through who just kind of seem to meet a grisly end. The scene with the hitchhiker, I think, was also extremely well done. I think they do cut away when her face is smashed with a rock, but the ending effect when she's brought into the morgue and Doc looks at her, very grim, very realistic, very well done. Oddly enough, Sheriff seems to be the only person in the town who doesn't seem to have a clue what really is going on. He's actually trying to go by the book and do his job. And the townspeople, for some odd reason, keep referring him back to his wife. Every time something seems odd, they're like, well, just go ask Janet. And, you know, it just kind of really doesn't seem to dawn on him. Certain things about his wife also just don't seem to add up. It's at one point early on in the film implied that she was seeing another man, which really was not the case. She also happens to see Doc on a very regular basis, which Sheriff was not aware of. And in one of her drawers in the home, Sheriff finds a book of witchcraft, and he finds this extremely alarming as far as the fact that his wife plans on using witchcraft as a lesson plan for elementary school children. Sheriff obviously deems this inappropriate, but she goes through with it. So later throughout the course of the film, we actually discover that Doc had actually, I believe, lost his license in another state, and this was done because he was illegally performing autopsies on corpses. And of course, he's now just kind of hiding out in this small town. It's a very amazing twist, just the fact that we discover that Doc has been, I guess you could say, reanimating the dead through the use of the dark arts. Even though that just seems such an odd phrase to me, it sounds very Harry Pottery. But, okay, so he's been practicing black magic, and he's been reconstructing and resurrecting people. And the fact that these people were mutilated as they were murdered, that's just done in order to accommodate for Doc's morbid purposes, is the fact that he believes he is so skilled and he takes joy in bringing people back to their former glory. So he has them, I guess you could say, mutilated or disfigured just so that he could put them back the way they were or make them look better than they were. So we eventually do discover that the entire town has actually been reanimated, including Sheriff, and this is extremely upsetting to him. But the fun part to me is just the fact that we cut on a scene where Doc is asking to see Sheriff's hands. Somehow throughout the course of all of his running around and investigating, Sheriff did not realize that his hands were decomposing. So I don't know, I guess it's just kind of the ghost effect. You have the selective memory or limited memory, and that is also implied in the film as well. It's just that the dead just can carry only so many memories. So this kind of to some degree also explains why Sheriff was not aware of or did not remember that he had been murdered by his wife, as well as the fact that his wife only remembers and repeatedly asks certain phrases. I really love the use of music in this film as well. We have a lot of jazz or a big band 1940s type music, and I love how this is done because to some degree, this is all music of just a bygone era, so it's kind of like the director subtly implying throughout the film that these people are older than they appear to be, or they may be from a different time or different era. And even the waitresses in the diners, they have 1940s hairstyles. The film's from the 80s, but you don't have this crazy puffy hair. So everyone just kind of seems to be trapped in time, and it really does wrap up nicely in the end. And it actually is a very intelligent horror film, which I guess for some people it may be difficult for some people to grasp, because it's not really about the gore or the violence. It's there, it does exist, but it really is, I guess you could say, a thinking person's film. So it just kind of seems to walk a fine line between highbrow and lowbrow, if that makes any sense. But that is pretty much all I have for you guys today, and I will talk to you later.